Hi, Village. It's your girl Narise, and I'm back with another live stream. Now, I know it's pretty late where I am, or at the time of me recording this. I think I'll probably take my glasses off for this, just because I know it's like a glare reflection. I know it's a little late, but I was still debating on if I would do this live stream, and I wanted to record first, so I just recorded a video for TikTok because on that page, like a lot of my political content is like blowing up, even though like I don't claim to be a political expert, but I am aware of what's going on and I do pay attention and I give my opinion and perspective at times because I mean, y'all care to know. Um, but for those who don't know who I am from Canopy, because you really shouldn't, unless my life were anything like the Truman Show. Um, Hi, my name's Nerisse. I'm a singer, songwriter. Um, I make beats, I produce music, and I'm also a visual artist. I like to style looks. This time I got my look together. Last time I just kind of like joined live stream because I just wanted to get on there quickly and give you guys like an update on what I've been up to. But I do like to style, direct, film, visual arts, and yeah, I that's what I do. I'm a creative first and foremost. Now, um, the whole reason why I was talking about political content is because I'm an American and we all should be aware of the politics and stuff that goes on in this country, even a little bit. And I was sharing my perspective. I'll just briefly say it on here. I mean, you can check out the video. The link to my TikTok account is in the description. I have two accounts. I have my artist account and my account where I talk pop culture. In that particular video is on the pop culture account. So my artist account is at Narisse. My pop culture account is at NarisseM, kind of similar to my Cash App name right here. So yeah, that's pretty much what that is, my accounts. But what I did want to talk about on here was well, briefly, I'll just say the point that I made in that video and then I'll get on to what I was going to do. So, basically, I was just saying, like, when it comes to this politics, regardless of where you stand, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democratic, Independent, whatever, it's important to vet the people that you are looking at as leaders and people in positions of power. And, especially the people where, say, questionable things come up and certain things that rival their narratives, um, you know, we have a right to ask questions and seek those answers. And if they one try to shut you down and silence you, um, that kind of like raises more questions. And not only that, if they try to spin the narrative and then try to pinpoint situations saying like, oh, but look at the opposing person, look at them stumble here. When usually it's a game of like, and maybe I've been watching Scandal recently, and it's like very strategic. People like to make power moves, and of course, set up situations and traps for their opposing partner or opposing people to look bad. So when they're pushing their narrative and their policies, they're like, look at what we're doing and look at how bad this person is. But it's like, okay, but y'all may probably making moves behind the scenes intentionally trying to set that up. But let's not forget or distract from the initial reason why you should be held accountable as well. Like there's legitimate questions based on the policies that y'all say y'all stand for, that y'all say y'all about, that you say that you fight for. But there's situations and facts that show up where it's like, okay, well, why is this here like this? And instead of answering directly, people like to, speak in code and give you the runaround and all these things and say, oh, but let's point the finger back at these people. But hold on, before we start pointing fingers at certain people, let's address why. Because I mean, the facts are these people in positions of power have the resources, have the teams, the strategists to make these power moves and have these mastermind tactics. So knowing that that's a fact, knowing that they have that history of coming to be in politics and to be in positions of power where you're making moves in the name of democracy and just also as a representation of America around the world, you have to be strategic. You have to think 20 steps in ahead, 20 steps ahead, when it comes to the opposing countries or opposing partner people, or if you're trying to make allies and stuff like that. There's a part of that that involves being an opportunist and being a strategist. And while doing that, sometimes, although they say, they're doing these strategic moves for the sake of justice and the rights and well-being of people, I mean, there's many times where we've seen politicians play dirty to their benefit. And as long as they have the public behind them, long as they have the everyday person co-signing what they're being strategic for, they'll make those grimy moves in front of y'all. We've seen the manipulation plays. We've seen all those tactics. So who's to say they wouldn't do that for to create an issue just to get people to get behind them. I mean, like, if you want to get into the whole conspiracy theory bag, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but that's oftentimes what people challenge about 9/11 and saying it's an inside job. They created the issue, blame it on somebody else to give them a good reason to go to war with somebody, and then get Americans behind it. And then you got Muslim folks getting attacked just by living their life, all because of a situation that probably has absolutely nothing to do with them. And I'm not saying that that's a legitimate thing, but I'm saying that's an example on a big scale. Who's to say that doesn't happen in smaller ways and smaller scales in these political spaces of people in power? And these are things that are worth questioning and worth holding them accountable to and asking directly and getting direct answers. And if you ask direct questions and you get these run around, beat around the bush ass answers, no pun intended, since that happened during Bush's presidency, no pun intended. But if you get in these questions and answers where people beating around the bush, but they can't answer you directly, but they're very quick to set up a new scenario to try to lead you down another path and distract you and say, oh, but let's point the finger back at this person. Well, hold on. Before you point the finger at that person, who's to say that you didn't set these people up to fail to begin with? Especially if you're more powerful than that person, or you have more resources, or you have more connections, and you strategically, you know, pinpoint things around someone else's life or issues or policies just to hide the fact that you're probably doing dirty work behind the scenes. These are all things worth questioning. And, and I say, I feel like that's something that a lot of Republicans do, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats do that too. And a criticism that I had for Democrats specifically as a Black woman is knowing that oftentimes, not even just in politics, but just in life, there's always this pressure on Black women to save the day, to be the handmaid, so to speak, to clean up America's problems, to clean up everybody's problems, really. And then when you don't clean it the right way, they want to be mad. But it's like, but then want us to show up as if we aren't already showing our loyalty for years, getting these Democrats into these positions of power. Showing our loyalty, showing up for the fight, showing up at the rallies, showing up at the protest, voting. like lending our energy, lending our services, lending just our everyday, our lives, and it's not good enough. And pimp our energy, pimp our tax dollars, and then meanwhile, there's people struggling, just trying to make it day to day, knowing that we work hard, knowing that it's not like have with a fair opportunity, we would make the most of it. With a fair opportunity and a chance, we would do good with it. But instead, you know, here we are trying to show up. Like what the women were able to do with these Zoom calls are truly amazing. And I'm not saying this specifically about any particular candidate. I'm just talking about politics in a very general way. And I think how the fact that women were able to band together and raise money as quickly as soon as they got the notification that Kamala was going to be the candidate, for the sake of democracy, how fast Black women have banded together to rally behind someone, to support somebody. Like, we're so quick to support people. We're so quick to lend our dollars, to donate, to fight for a cause with our time, with our energy, with our words, with our dollars, with the degrees. Now, I mean, I'm not saying for myself, I'm saying for people with degrees. I mean, I would like a higher education, but for people with degrees, you know, going to school, studying these things. Like, we put so much energy and time into elevating our minds, and just to be in spaces where the people that we put so much time and energy into really just milk off the fact that they know that we'll show up. They know that we're loyal. They know that we'll vote for them. Meanwhile, our rights are being taken away. Meanwhile, there's laws governing our bodies, governing what we can say and what we can do with our bodies, trying to tell us how to live our lives. And then when we speak up for ourselves, when we fight for ourselves, then it's a problem. On top of the fact that as Black women, we already have to be perfect at everything we do. We can't be too loud because we'll ruffle too many feathers. Can't be too quiet, then we'll be spoken over or we'll be talked over, or the opportunities that we so rightfully deserve because we put in the work and we're good at what we do and we care to do a great job. If we're too soft spoken, we'll be overlooked. But if we play it just like how our counterparts play it, whether it be white women or even white men, then we're being aggressive. Oh my gosh. Like, then we're the worst thing in the world. When we play them the same way that they play us, not even how they play us, because how they do us is so grimy. But when we play a fraction of how they do us, then we're the worst thing ever, because we're supposed to be submissive. We're supposed to just clean up America's mess and it be fine. But God forbid we stand up for ourselves. God forbid we fight for our lives. It's a problem. Then it's disrespectful. How dare you speak up for yourself? How dare you fight for yourself? And a lot of times, it's like, as Black women, especially in, like, not just politics, but just in general, there's a lot of times where people know those games. They know that they could play us that way. And so they set the bait and they try to lead us into a trap and then blame us for falling for their tricks. But why are you laying the tricks? Especially when we put the pressure on you and hold you accountable and challenge what you say you stand for. They say they stand for women. They say they stand for protecting children. They say they stand for this, but kids get shot up in schools all the time in America. Rights are being taken away from women governing their bodies and whether they could bring a child into this world. But that's what you say you stand for. But why aren't laws changing to protect children and women? Meanwhile, we're at these rallies. Meanwhile, we're using our platforms, advocating for the lives of children, advocating for the rights for women, for Black people, for Black men, for all minorities, for workers, for people that's disenfranchised, always advocating, showing up for the fight, but often the last to reap the benefits, often the least respected in those spaces. Why is that? And then you expect us to show up and be loyal. You expect us to, how? How? When we show up for the fight constantly, constantly defending, constantly supporting, yet we don't get that same support in return. And then you expect us to be loyal and just do whatever you want. Nah, you have to earn that. Like, you know how many times, me personally, now I'm saying personally, I was speaking for the most part, speaking generally, but personally, I've shown up to protests. I've shown up to rallies. I've donated to causes. Yet there's many times in my own individual life where I find struggle in these programs, in these systems. But it's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want? You know, like, okay, so like, all right, in certain spaces, I might not be as educated, so let me educate myself. Then you see how they're trying to attack the education system and ban certain books and ban us from getting access to knowledge. Okay, fine. You want us to show up with our dollars. There's people struggling to find work. Okay, fine. Let's do this entrepreneurship thing. Then there's issues with grants supporting Black women having their own businesses and their own independence. I mean, there are some that do help, which is good. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm just saying, like, okay, we're trying to make livings for ourselves out here in America. We're just trying to be the best that we can be, and we're constantly dealt with these roadblocks. And then you want us to show up and support. You want us to be loyal to systems that's fighting against us. How does that make any sense? How? How do you want us to show up and support systems that don't support us? How do you want us to show up and fight for systems that are constantly fighting us and fighting for our rights and trying to control and govern our own physical beings? The fuck do you expect us to do? Just sit there and take it? As Black people, we don't do that. Historically, that's how we got to a space of freedom and civil rights, fighting against the thing that we knew is wrong. We know being treated like less than a person is wrong. Yet we built this country. Yeah, there might have been certain ancestors and spaces that took it because that was in the circumstances that they had. That's all that they could do. And they tried their best. Yet they were constantly being beaten and their freedoms taken away from them. And just when they gained their freedom, when the Emancipation Proclamation happened and they had the Freedmen's Bank to help usher folks who were once enslaved into society as free citizens, that money that was supposed to be for those folks was taken away from them. And they have the nerve to say, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. How? When every step that we take to make a move to be self-sufficient, there's always something trying to block us. And then you want us to show up and support and want us to give. Well, what about us? What about for our education? What about for the kids? What about for our own rights? How are y'all going to support us? Because they have these speeches and, they rally people up and it's really exciting. And just because you can build this momentum and have a lot of people side with you, how does that actually benefit us as a people? And it's very easy to do the whole slander campaign thing and attack the opposing side. But who's speaking to the solutions? And when you challenge them on that, and when you actually show them what it looks like to actually fight for solutions and fight for freedom and fight for autonomy, they make it a problem. Make that make sense. And like I said in my video, it's interesting how they criminalize us for fighting for our freedom. And, of course, fighting for justice isn't going to be pretty. Someone's always going to be offended, especially if you don't fight by their rules or fight by their standards. Somebody's going to be offended some way, somehow, especially if they're setting you up to fail. And it's like, okay, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? I deserve rights. I deserve my freedom. So I'm going to fight for it. And I'm sorry if the way that I fight doesn't meet your standards or you happen to be offended. That's not the goal. But I'm offended by the circumstances. I'm offended by the lies. I'm offended by the setups. I'm offended by the laws that govern my body. I'm highly offended. I'm highly offended by the lack of safety that parents have to worry about when their kids are simply going to school for education. Not only do you have to worry about the safety of your children seeking an education because there's no real gun regulation that should be a thing in this country, I'm also offended that we have to fight for the fact that our kids are being withheld the truth of their history, especially Black history. Now, and I know there's other minority groups, I know there's other people and cultures and experiences. I'm purely speaking as my experience as a Black woman and what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've read. And I'm highly offended. But of course, nobody cares about that. And when you speak to these things, they try to silence you or they spin the narrative and try to make it your problem. When all you're doing is seeking freedom and truth. Of course, people that fight for freedom aren't always the most liked because they challenge the status quo and they challenge leaders and they fight for answers and they fight for truth and they fight for justice and freedom. And I think it's an issue when you speak to these things and people don't give you clear answers, but they give you very clever strategic ways to look at the other side. But it's like, okay, well, how are you showing up and being a solution? Because we've been solutions. There's many times when we've showed up and done the right thing and supported people and fought for people and gave our money and donated and was at the fight, at the protest, getting locked up at the protest. Because like I said in my video on TikTok, there's people, many of people, even some of the good ones, some of the good politicians that have been locked up fighting for justice and freedom. But yet we have laws being passed to give immunity to presidents to make it okay for them to bend the rules. But they treat you like a criminal when you fight for your freedom and you fight for truth. and constantly create lies around these policies and around your life. Please make that make sense for me, because it does not. The fight for freedom is never a pretty one. Because if you have to fight for freedom, there's usually someone or a group or a power that's oppressing that freedom. And usually for whatever reason of selfish gain, of power, of recognition, of monetary status. There's never a justified reason to intentionally oppress a people's freedom and intentionally withhold resources and information, especially when these people in positions of power are strategic at what they do, and they're good at being strategic. They're good at it, clever. The moves are clever, well thought out, symbolic even. But it's crazy to me to see that these people in positions of power use all these clever symbolic moves to oppress someone rather than empower. And when you challenge them, they try to burn you at the stake. And they say that they're fighting for your justice, but they're lying to you. And when you call them out on their lies, they try to flip the narrative and make you the bad guy. Absolutely fucking not. There's too many times where the everyday person, the citizen, the college student, the mom, the full-time worker, the small business owner, show up to these events, show up to the rallies, show up to the protests, donate their hard-earned money, and maybe they might not have a lot. They're trying to save for whatever reason, probably trying to buy a home, trying to go to school, save for their kids' education. God willing that they're safe in these spaces where they're being educated. Yet, with all the things that they deal with in their day-to-day life, take the time and energy to donate their money to these causes and to these campaigns. I just care that although it is important to support one of these candidates, and not just the presidential election, even the smaller local elections, because if that isn't more important than the presidential ones, I don't know what is. I'm just saying that we need to challenge these candidates and make sure that they're actually committing to the policies that they say they stand for, especially when you give your time and your energy and your money. And like I said, the smaller elections are very much important, just like the presidential ones as well. So it's not just, you know, about Kamala and Donald Trump. Yes, them too, but the parties itself, all sides, all people in positions of power. And it doesn't even have to be just politics. It could be in corporate spaces, in workspaces, in communities, like I said, in schools, in families, anywhere where there's a structure of a hierarchy and people in positions of power and people who abuse that power. And they use that power to disenfranchise, to drain the resources and the energy and the taxes and the support and the loyalty of the everyday person. And the actions that they make don't align with the things that they say they stand for. Especially if they say that the things that they stand for align with what you're supporting them for, and you constantly support and you constantly show up and you've constantly proved yourself, like I said, by showing up at these protests, showing up at the rallies, showing up with your dollars, showing up at the council city meetings, and you see no change, it's worth a challenge. Wake up and recognize you deserve better. And you have a right to question these people. Again, if they try to silence you, if they go out of their way to try to silence you and spin the narrative, looks a little suspicious to me. And we all deserve the truth. We all deserve respect. We all deserve safety. We all deserve a chance, fair access to resources, the rights over our body, autonomy, the rights over our finances, to know when we're paying taxes where the money is going, and to at least be able to have a say in where it's going. And I understand that's usually done through who we elect, but there should be a better system. There should be a better system where, okay, if I'm giving my money to these causes or paying these taxes, I have a right to know where it's going to go or run me my money back. I think it's only fair. And I think so often we show up and constantly give our support. And I mean, I know there's people who, they're not into politics and they don't vote and all these things. And I get it. I understand. And I think voting is important. I think voting is an important thing to do. And I understand the Electoral College should be done with, quite frankly. Because there's been several elections where candidates have won the popular vote, but they lost the Electoral College. And that ultimately was the winning factor of an election. And I don't think that's fair. So it's like, okay, if the Electoral College is going to override what millions of people in this country, citizens, everyday folks that live in this country, that pay taxes, either they have to make up for the taxes that we pay or something. Like this Electoral College thing they gotta do more. If they have so much weight and so much power to swing an election, and we take our time and energy to go to the polls and vote or mail in our votes, all for it to not count. That's a thing worth discussing as well. But I say all this to say, question the people in positions of power, especially when we see the moves, we see the strategies, we see the manipulation. So is it really that far-fetched to believe that they're not manipulating us? I mean, a lot of times they're very flagrant with the moves. Like, I mean, they broadcast it and show us on, CNN and Fox and everything. And it's like, okay, so we see the capability is there. We see that, they're able to pull the strings and make the things happen how they want. So why are we so pressured and why are we so, you know, so shamed and attacked on whether or not we show up to their liking, and when we challenge it, it's often like, oh, we're being disrespectful, or, we're not, what's the word? We're not meeting our civic duties. But it's like, okay, are you guys meeting your duties halfway? How are you benefiting our country? How are you benefiting democracy? A lot of times it's really just glorified bullies, and they display their power. And people get enamored by that. And I get it. I get why Donald Trump is as popular as he is. And, when you think with logic, it seems ridiculous. You know, all the things that he's been accused of doing, all the things, like, he's literally been charged for what, one over 30 accounts. I'm not 100% sure of the details, so, you know, not too much on me. But I mean, it's clear as day that this man is not as innocent as he appears. But, people love how brash he is. They love that, even though he lies all day, like lied throughout the whole debate, and there was no fact checking. Nobody cares. It's not even a matter of whether what he says is true. It's a matter of how he says it and if he's entertaining while doing it. People don't care about the truth. They just want to be entertained. And I'm here to challenge you, although it is entertaining, to wake up and question. If you see them lie so much, if you see them manipulate so much and play these manipulative, either narcissistically abusive tactics, and then try to put it off and project it on the opposing side, you see they do this. You see how they pull the strings and they abuse their power. Why not question if they're really going to show up and fight for the policies they say they stand for? And there's countless times, us as a people, us as citizens, or the handmaids of America, show up and clean up other people's messes. So many times we show up and fight for the cause. We show our support. We do our civic duties. We try to play the game as well as we can, even though they don't tell us all the rules, even though they bend the rules to work in their favor, even though they'll tell you, oh, wait, these is the moves that you need to make, and really they're just leading you down a path to set you up to fail so they can win. But we still show up, and they want our loyalty, and they want our support. Our support needs to be earned. And of course, sometimes they can either make the argument, oh, but we have this, we provide these services, we have these programs, we have this government program, and we have this and that, and this is helping unemployment. And, yeah, okay, at the very bare minimum. But wow, it's like, it's like them providing services, saying that You know, at least we're providing housing. But the housing is like a prison where you're constantly surveillanced, so you don't have any privacy. And they try to tell you what to do with your body and make laws about it. And when you fight for yourself, it's an issue. You're criminalized for fighting for your freedom. And it's like, oh, but we're providing housing. And naturally, specifically speaking as a Black woman, we take those situations and we take those circumstances and we do find the gratitude in that. There's many a times where we've been given the scraps and we alchemize it into something beautiful. And historically, we'll be in the worst conditions and the worst circumstances, but we make beauty out of it. And we'll say, oh, but we're grateful to have it. And I speak to gratitude all the time. I'm often very grateful despite circumstances in my life. And I feel like that's a genetic thing. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I really don't know, actually. That might just be a me thing because I know there's power in gratitude. However, although despite the circumstances in your life, it is good to be in a space of gratitude in order to want to manifest more for your life. There should be a point where we know we deserve better. And it's like, yes, I'm going to be grateful for, you know, the things that I have, that the fact that circumstances could be worse. I'm aware of that. I don't take that for granted. However, knowing that I'm a child of God, knowing that I'm a citizen that has never committed a crime, knowing that I've literally put my time and energy into the well-being and the support, put my own dollars into showing up and proving myself as a citizen, despite the many systems in place historically to keep Black people down, despite those systems, standing up and fighting for my space in this world, despite those things, and despite finding gratitude in those spaces and dealing with those systems, I know I deserve better than that. And I'm not afraid to say that. And I'm not afraid to stand on that. Because I know in me standing on that, it shows other people we all deserve better. And although as limited as my resources may be, but grateful for what I have, I know it's not pretentious. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's it's not selfish to say that we deserve better. Yes, we've come a long way. Yes, it could be worse. But it's okay to want more for ourselves and to fight for it and stand for it and challenge the systems that say, oh, we're doing this for you. How dare you challenge us? How dare you speak up and fight for yourself? That's disrespectful. As if we haven't been dealing with lies and disrespect for decades, if not centuries. I say this to say we all need to wake up and realize we all deserve better. And it's okay to stand up for yourself and challenge the system that treats us like worse than we deserve. especially when there's been systems in place for decades intentionally to oppress and set us up to fail before we even know it. Systems that we're born into, yet we're raised with limited education, limited knowledge, and limited resources, and somehow, some way have the will to fight through and make a way out of no way. Anyway, we all deserve that. So don't forget that as this election is coming up. And just in life in general, whether it's at work, whether it's wherever, in relationships, however, we all deserve better. Especially when more times than not, we've shown up and proven ourselves. Proven, excuse me, proven our support, our loyalty, our fight against systems intentionally trying to set us up to fail. Just so they can say, oh, but look when they did this. Look when they stumbled here. Look when they got locked up there. Look when they committed this crime here. But there's literally systems in place that's been in place for decades, hoping that we will fall for that trap just so they can use it against us. And y'all know that. Wake up and realize we all deserve better. I was going to have a musical moment on this live stream, but I feel like this message is more important. And I haven't quite finished writing a song with this kind of a message. But I said what I said. And, you know, I've had personal experiences in my own life where it don't matter what you do, you know, you can do all the right things. You can make all the right moves. You can try to be as perfect as possible, and it's not going to be enough. You can, like I said, show up to the rallies, fight for the cause, support, be there, do all the things, and it's never going to be enough. And as soon as you have a misstep, people will be quick to try to document it and use it against you and say, oh, but look at this person. Look at their character. Look at their actions. Okay. Well, let's look at y'all's. Let's look at your actions. And if, specifically speaking in politics now, and if you, by your actions, do your actions show organizations of empowerment and upliftment or abuse of power and manipulation? Because what I do here, for those who are new, for those who might not be, you already know what this is at the village. I call this the village because oftentimes we might be born into circumstances that don't align with the environments that we wish we would have had to help nurture and empower us. And so sometimes you have to relearn and reparent yourself. And in this village, I have and will continue to build a space that empowers, uplifts, and inspires people and challenges the status quo. And I will create a space that will provide the nurturing that I wish I had. And it will be a space of truth. It'll be a space of love and empowerment. And yes, every now and then I get into my TED Talks where I inspire or, just share thoughts that's on my mind. But I always do it with the intention to empower, to uplift, or open your mind to something that you might not have thought about or to a perspective that you might not have considered. So I know there's people who pop in here at particular times to hate watch. Um, However, I know there's a lot of people that pop in here and genuinely love what I have to say and what I do, whether it be my art, whether it be my creativity. And I appreciate that. I, in my own personal life, went through a season of bullying, manipulation, um, slander, being doxxed, all the things. And despite those things, I'm still here. And I'm grateful for that. And I went through a season of constantly trying to get everything right and realizing no matter what I do, just going to be some people who only see what I do as wrong. And if I offend those people, so be it. I've spent many times apologizing and never receiving any apologies for the things done and said about me. But all I know that I can do is just show up and be better every day. And it's not always going to be that way. I'm human. I'm approaching 30. God bless, God willing. Um, and I have many more summers to go. But especially when you grow up in situations where you're intentionally, like I said, in spaces with limited education, and so yeah, you're bound to make mistakes, especially when there's people around you who could teach you better and don't, or try to withhold information from you intentionally. So you're disenfranchised and you're in these systems that intentionally keep you oppressed and keep you from rising up. But rise isn't my name, so I'm going to do that anyway. I say that to say, don't let anybody stop you. Even if you have a lack of information, do what you can to seek more. If there's a lack of resources, be the alchemist that you are and make something out of nothing. But don't let people try to tell you who you are and shame you for fighting for freedom, knowing that there's a world where people are so judgmental and so hateful, and they will rather kick you down rather than show you a way up. Here on this platform, I'm figuring it out as I go, but as I figure it out, I care to share that information to help other people up because that's what I do. That's what I've been doing, and that's what I'll continue to do. And if people get offended along the way, it's chances are it was people who were trying to keep me down and I didn't stay down. I continue to move up. So I challenge you to keep moving up and challenge the status quo and question systems that you might be in or be a part of, or certain ideas and certain perspectives that you were conditioned into believing, and see more for yourself and know that you deserve it. Know that you deserve more. Know that you deserve the truth. Know that you deserve freedom. And if people say that they can provide that, challenge them on it. And see to it that they commit to that freedom and that truth. With that said, I'm going to conclude this live stream. I might do something musical later. But for those who are new, I usually like to close with a prayer and sound bowl to help heal, balance, align, and elevate your chakras. So we'll do that, and then I'll conclude with a prayer. Okay. So had to go through the bowls. It's like Russian dolls with these bowls. All right. So we're going to do the root and the crown chakra. The root is the very first chakra at the base of your navel. Crown is your crown. So we're, which is the last one all the way at the top. So literally starting bottom to the top. The root chakra, for those who don't know, is said to hold energy that represents security, being grounded, and in alignment, essentially. All right. The next one is, like I said, the crown chakra, which is at the top of your head. It represents where your connection to the Most High and not necessarily your intuition, but your ability to think beyond the physical and to be aware of things spiritually, energetically, and just be tapped in to bigger realms and other realms aside from what we see physically with our human eyes in this human experience. So as I'm playing this with the intention to heal, balance, uplift, align, clear, and protect our crowns. being that this live stream was mostly me talking, I'll keep the prayer short and sweet. Whoever your most high is, being considerate of all denominations, I'm just going to say God for me. God, continue to lead us on a path of righteousness. And if anyone isn't already on that path, may you help guide them there and clear out anything trying to distract them or block their connection to you. May you continue to align us with the truth, with justice, and with freedom. So it is, so it will be. Gratitude for what's been. Amen. Amen. Ashe. Thank you all for being a part of this live stream. I guess in me really concluding, I'll just say again, I am an artist. I'm a singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, beat maker, producer, visual artist as well. Do check out my art and my music. I have a project called Divine, like Divine Feminine. That's on all streaming platforms. Anywhere you listen to music, it's there. I'd say check out the music before purchasing a physical copy, but if you are interested in purchasing a physical copy, I do have products available on my website. Give me 1 second, just trying. Yeah, so on NarisseM, you know, if you enjoy the vibes, an artist that stands for something and doesn't just sing songs. No shade to any other artists, but I mean, Divine is a project primarily of love songs, but I'm working on the music with more messages. I've been writing a lot of like inspirational stuff and just things based on experiences that I've had dealing with people, you know, dealing with spiritual warfare, dealing with people trying to block my dreams, dealing with feelings of suicide, unfortunately, and not wanting to be here, and knowing that other people go through those things. And I was essentially writing the songs that I needed to hear during those times. And gratefully, I'm still here, strong enough to get through those things and using those experiences to empower me, to hopefully empower you. Divine EP, I do have physical copies. I have CDs, as well as limited edition flash drives, which are also all available on Narisse.com. And the flash drives are really cool because it has the EP on there. It has a lyric book. There's a visual project that I modeled, styled, and directed and edited that was for my merchandise campaign. There's also merch on the website as well. And there is pictures on the flash drive, and each flash drive has different pictures. So they're all different. That's what makes them exclusive with the different colors and everything. So yeah, those are some of the goodies that's on the flash drive. But like I say check out the music first, stream it, and then if you decide that you like it, then you can order it from Narisse.com. The link is in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and on my panel if you're watching on Kick. Also stream Sweet Life on SoundCloud. I have quite a few like just songs and just covers that I've done over the years that weren't like official releases, but I uploaded on SoundCloud. I'm actually, what the other day, I said we were over 50, and my goal was to get to 100. We're at 100 already, which I don't like. It was crazy to me because I checked it after that live stream, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're already at 100. And I had a particular goal to do, but I mean, I'm kind of having some technical issues right now. So yeah, I mean, let's see if we can get it to 150 or 200. You know, let's keep the numbers going. But you know, I am dealing with the technical difficulty at the moment. I'm figuring that out, figuring out my whole like Wi-Fi situation. And once I get that squared away, then I'll get back to doing live streams where you can um, watch me make beats and produce songs. So that'll be cool. But in the meantime, do support what I already have out. Like I said, check out Sweet Life and just all the other stuff. I have a cover of Good Days by SZA, um, and songs that I've reworked where I wrote a completely different song to instrumental from another artist. And it's just really cool stuff. So yeah, check out the music that's on SoundCloud as well as my official EP that's on all streaming platforms. And I think that's everything for now. Yeah, and also if you do check out my website, be sure to sign up for the email list. Only if you enjoy being here. If you enjoy what I'm about, what I stand for, how I show up, and if my life were anything like the Truman Show, I'm sure there's some crazy narratives that can be said about me. I've definitely dealt with like being slandered and doxxed online and all these things, but once I started documenting my own experience and revealing certain truths in my life, then I started having these technical issues, and I think that says a lot. Um, but again, I still said what I said, and I think again we all deserve truth and freedom. So that's what I'm here doing. But anyway, that's that. Thank you all so much for being a part of this live stream. I know it wasn't really musical. I might we'll see what goes on in these next few days, but I'll probably be back on here for Fire Friday. And for those who don't know, my normal live stream schedule is Music Mondays, Wave Wednesday, Fire Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I know I started pretty late today, but it's fine. Um, and yeah, we'll get back into the musical things. So again, thank you all for being a part of the live stream. I hope you were entertained. I hope you were enjoyed. But yeah, and if you want to, you know, support and donate, this is my Cash App info right over here. And then I also have like PayPal and I think Venmo that's in the description as well. So I mean whatever your heart desires, however you want to support, be sure to like, comment, subscribe respectfully. Again, only if you want to be here. For the people who really enjoy the vibes, welcome to the village. This is a safe space for the outcasts and the people who challenge the status quo, that often have to walk and stand against the grain and may walk alone in their journey. You're not alone when you're here. You're seen, you're heard, you're respected, you're appreciated, and you're protected here. So, welcome. Much love to you. Have a great night, and I will see you all later. Friday. God bless. Oh, wait, actually, okay, just kidding. Um, so one more thing. So I do, like I said, I do live streams and I work on music on here. And I have a Patreon account, two Patreon accounts actually. One Patreon account specifically for my music. So like say if I'm working on an original music, I'll live stream it temporarily and then I'll put it on Patreon just because if my life were anything like the Truman Show, if I'm creating music in a space that lacks privacy, then it is what it is. But so I figure I expose that myself and make that content for you all to enjoy. So and me doing that, I do have to do what I can to protect my intellectual property. Until we get things all squared away. But if you are interested in listening to some of the original songs again, you can check out patreon.com/Narisse. That's my artist account. And then I also have another low-key account where I discuss more personal stuff in my life. I talk more about like the woo-woo side of things and just different experiences dealing with spiritual warfare and spell hunting and all those type of things on a Patreon account called Narisse, the Narisse Show, kind of like the Truman Show. So yeah, if you're interested in those things, you can check out those links. I don't think they're in the description, so you might just have to type that one up. But I just wanted to say that. And yeah, that actually concludes this live stream. So again, thank you all so much. Have a blessed night, and I will see you all later.